So we are live. We're live. So welcome to Glow Joys. All right. Well, oh man, just kidding. We are live. All right, we're live for real.
All right, Jamie, do one more. No.
So welcome.
Oh, then he did.
Okay, and he did. All right, so I think we're live. Welcome everybody to our live stream. We're here today with Shawn Ramsden, and he is from Brolysdad Construction, a father, entrepreneur, industry community builder, tool and product ambassador, and trainer, so much more. I will let him give an intro about business and what Brolysdad Construction is in a second. But Shawn, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, just Shawn, the guy, the dad, to kick us off today, because you are brand new to LinkedIn.
Yep.
Nobody on LinkedIn knows you. YouTube, he's all over the place. Just Google the guy. And of course, Instagram, we have a huge community on Instagram in Drywall, and we'll get to that in a second. But let us know, let the people know who you are, and give us a brief intro on who Shawn is.
I'm a father too, like you said. I have like a very close group of friends. A lot of the things that I do are work related these days. I love what I'm doing, so it's not like I'm ever not wanting to get up and go to the work or come home from work early to go do stuff. I incorporate things into it, so work is a lot of it. I like to get to the gym. I like spending time with my kids. I've got a 13-year-old. He's in private school, crazy excelling, wants to be an astrophysicist. So we're full with the scholastic part of that. And then my daughter's 5 and is very musically inclined. So we've kind of got two hemispheres there going. It's kind of fantastic.
Yeah, she's also very talented. You sent me that video on Instagram, and I was like, whoa, you go, girl. Okay. Take an extra 10 minutes before you go to bed.
Right? She's had that drum set for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
She just picks up instruments. We gave her a keyboard, and she was playing Baby Shark in like 5 minutes.
Wow.
And so I was like, what else can we get her?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and typically I have found from, just volunteering and working with kids in after school programs that a lot of the kids that are musically inclined end up actually being very good at mathematics. And obviously, some people believe in this left and right brain thing, and some people don't. And so we're not going to get into that because we're construction folks. And that's just not our department. But I really just wanted folks to hear more a little bit about Shawn, the person, because Shawn, the drywall guy, and, the Columbia tool ambassador, and everything else that you do, Fresco Harmony, etc. That's all over the internet. And so for people, I think, especially in construction, we focus a lot on the job, we focus a lot on the project, but without the people, there is no construction, right?
Totally.
Right.
We're kind of getting into that now, where I'm taking on bigger jobs now, and we're just bringing other people in, like from all over the place. That last job was in Illinois, and 2 of us traveled to get there.
Right.
There's no reason not to, right? If it's all budgeted in, and so, why not? And then you've got like your best friends on site with you. And it's kind of amazing what you can do at that point. I think a little bit more about me, I guess. I did drywall, obviously got me into framing, that then got me into like large custom home framing. And then I kind of fell in love with carpentry. I got into custom carpentry, and then I tend to get bored when things aren't exciting anymore, like big new exciting.
Right,
Uh,
right.
so I got into running crews, and then I got into running sites, and then I got into project management, and it just kind of felt like I was always going home going, man, I could do better by myself. Like
How many years ago was that? When did you fall into construction?
oh, I was 20. So yes, 17 years ago. I mean, before that, I was like pushing wheelbarrows and doing landscaping and things like that on the side. But
Right.
yeah, we're probably 17 years. Yeah.
So let's take a couple steps back,
Hmm.
right? And let's have a conversation. And I'm, looking at my tablet and looking over here to make sure that we are actually live. And the comments that I'm getting, like on DM, are, whether we're having technical difficulties or not. So, Jamie, make sure that a LinkedIn is live. There seem to be some folks that are having some issues commenting and or participating in the live on LinkedIn from what I'm seeing on the background here. Maybe that's been sorted out. Who knows? But obviously, folks can catch replays. So if this doesn't go on, this is the first couple episodes. So, we're just kind of getting our feet wet with StreamYard and obviously LinkedIn Live. So thank you so much for being here. So let's go back to blue collar versus white collar, right?
Cool.
LinkedIn is predominantly, and nobody please take offense to this, although we're all wearing black here, um, not set up a uniform. But, there's traditionally blue collar jobs, which is what you do, what we do. Just the construction industry in general is considered a blue collar industry. And then there's the white collar industry. And on LinkedIn, predominantly, most people are in white collar industry or on the white collar side of construction. I mean, you just opened your LinkedIn account
Hmm.
4 days ago, 5 days ago, because I asked you to so that you could be live on this show and people could find you after this show. So let's talk about blue collar versus white collar, a little bit of the stigma, obviously, and again, how you landed in blue collar instead of like every other person in our generation trying to be the next tech entrepreneur, trying to create an app or, go into fintech or something of that nature, which is really what we were pushed to do.
Yeah, I think maybe 5 or 6 years into it, maybe not even. I decided that was what I was going to do forever, and I was a blue collar guy. And then I kind of got to the point where I was like, I feel like I could do a better job than the people
Hmm.
above me. And then I did that a couple of times, and it was one of these things where it was like, at some point here, you'll make some big change. But I think in your heart, you are who you are, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. I need that walking away from something at the end of the day and tangibly seeing what I've done.
Right.
I kind of felt when I was sitting at a desk that it was just this like mountain of things to do, and every once in a while you got to win, as opposed to you get wins every day
Right.
working on site. When people talk to me about blue collar and white collar, I always say things like houses would be built without white collar people. Large buildings wouldn't.
Right.
Right? You have to be able to um, plan and facilitate and make contacts with people, and estimate correctly, and to try and do all of those things while building, you wouldn't get anything done.
No,
I
you don't. Actually, I can totally attest to
Yeah.
that, right? Because while this podcast or live stream is not about me or us, we've had a conversation about me, and folks can go to brolysdad podcast and look it
That was a
up
good one.
and learn, a little bit about this background. But there came a time where I needed to go from running a business to running the business in the field. And while you're in the field, you cannot do any of the back office stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
your phone will ring incessantly, and you will do your best to answer it, but then you can't focus in the field. Every time you put down a tool,
Um,
or you leave something to the side to go take a phone call or answer a text message, that's mud that's drying,
yep.
that's paint that's getting all
Yeah.
stay and stuff.
See lap
So
marks and stuff.
yeah, I pulled my cord out again, me and my tech.
Um, so yeah, I love
Okay, I
that.
trust you're going to keep the people entertained.
I,
There
I,
we
lo-
go.
I love that you went like this when you said answer the phone, because when I started the business, I got a pair of AirPods, and
Hmm.
it was an absolute game changer. I never had to touch my phone anymore. I could ask the phone, what time is it? Answer the phone, send a text for
Right.
me, do all those types of things. So like you kind of could do some back and forth, which I think the first year saved us. Um, yeah, it's the stigmas in the blue and the white is, blue collar guys are stupid. They couldn't run a business.
Right.
They're hammer swingers. And then kind of the stigma the other side is, oh, they're just money people, and it's all about money, it's all about numbers. But if it wasn't for the people swinging the hammer, nothing would get done. And if it wasn't for the people looking at the money, the companies wouldn't last. Right.
Right.
So the whole thing would implode. It does take a village when it comes to things like that. And I'm starting to see those lines are starting to separate a little bit, because
Hmm.
just like anything else, there are people that are very good at what they do and they're paid very well.
Right.
And there's always going to be people that aren't and aren't good.
Right. Right.
But we're seeing that more and more, where guys like me are, I'm really good at this. I'm just going to do it on my own. And
Right.
if it takes another 10 hours a week doing back end stuff, we'll do it after work. And it seems to be working. It's just hard to, where do you go from there, right? You do
Hmm.
at some point, I think with growth, you have to implement staff. Like you have to have, I don't know, like an assistant or somebody. For instance, I have an accountant. I don't do any of that stuff. It's
Right.
it doesn't make sense financially for the time that I'll spend on it, and I'm not educated in it. And so
Wait. Can you backtrack on that one more time? Because I know there's going to be other contractors here, and
okay,
that you like breezed through that, and that's
yeah,
so important. You're
it is.
absolutely right. We are good at the stuff that we are good at, and people hire us. The accountant is hiring us
Yeah.
to fix their walls or their floors or whatever, right? If it's a business, they're hiring us to build out their office or upgrade it or whatever the heck it is, right? They're not trying to go in there swinging the hammer themselves or trying to, put in new electrical themselves. So why are we trying to do our own books? And that is one of
Totally.
the things that construction companies, myself included, okay, really struggle with in the beginning. And so for that to be like one of your first
Oh yeah.
vendors or staff members, that's an attestament to the fact that you really thought this business through,
Oh yeah.
right? Like it's not, oh hey, I'm just gonna start a business, right? You know?
I was very fortunate the path that I took, because I
Yeah.
kind of took things from everybody along the way. So
Yeah.
I did kind of get to gradually learn it all on somebody else's dime.
Hmm.
Like even the in-office stuff. You do really wrap your head around it when it's your job to run a project or be hands-on on a site running a project. Learning that stuff on your own is a dangerous game. Um, you know, Going back to doing things you're good at and getting other people to do what they're good at.
Right.
Kind of right in the beginning, I was like, okay, I can make a lot of money doing this. How do I keep it?
What, the
Uh,
money? Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely. I mean, cash flow is probably the single biggest issue with contractors. And the
totally.
reality is that a lot of contractors ride on one or two really good clients. And then, they lose one or two said really good client, and
Mhm.
then there's no more business,
Yeah.
right? So it's really tough. And just understanding your money and your cash flow and those type of statements.
Mhm.
We don't need to know that stuff. Like we just,
Yeah, I have a basic like QuickBooks. I go in, I see the project, what went out, what went in, it's green, good. And
right,
then at the end of the year, I've got like a garbage bag of receipts. Not quite. Like I go through them on my own. Like I like to
right,
play it down a little bit, but I am quite involved. But then I send it to the person that's educated in that. I can build a
Right.
house from the ground up. I can dig the hole with the machine. I can do the footings. I can do everything, the structure, the everything. I'm not doing the plumbing because I don't
No.
know how to do the plumbing. I can
Right.
figure it out, but
Yeah,
it's
sure.
going to be an uneducated figure it out. Just pay the guy or
Right.
the girl, the company, whatever.
Right.
Same with electrical. Anything that's going to be big at the end
Mhm.
of the job, if you are not well versed in it, you just need to find someone that's good at what they do and let them do what they do. Uh,
Right.
when I was running teams, that was a big part of it. Was just find people's strengths and let them do that, and then
I'm learning that now
yeah,
as I grow my field staff for the construction company. The project management company, we've been bringing people on slowly but surely the past couple of years, but as I'm bringing folks in the field or training folks to come in the field, on a full-time basis and just join us as a part of a helper apprentice, extra hand team
yep,
for different jobs. You've got to figure out as a leader what these people are good at
hmm
and just keep them there. And it's okay to try them on different things, and it's okay to expose them to different trades like framing or drywall
yeah,
or painting, or even, we don't do a lot of demolition. We typically work with a demolition
it's
contractor,
really smart to do that.
or something like that. But even light removal of walls or whatever, just exposing the team to the different things is really giving them the opportunity to see what they like. And it
Mhm.
gives me as a leader the opportunity. He said everything but the
Oh
plumbing. Gives me as
yeah,
a leader the opportunity to, really see where they shine. And most of my team, yes, shines on everything but the plumbing. And we've got two incredible plumbers.
yep.
Hopefully I can get them on the show. And we always work with the same plumbers. We've got plumbers for one demographic, which is in the city, and then obviously upstate New York and the boroughs and suburb area. There's other people, as do you. I mean, so back to team, right?
hmm
The essence of team is really what I'm hearing from you
Yeah.
as we have this conversation. And, when we talk about a blue collar community, I will have to say that when it comes to community, there is no larger camaraderie in business or careers or development, at least for me,
hmm
than the construction industry or even just blue collar gang, as I call it in general, right?
Yeah.
The truckers and all of the farmers, like all of the
hmm
people that make up what is blue collar. Um, is very community oriented. It almost reminds me of like old school, old world America.
Yeah.
And there is competition, obviously, and
Competition's good.
we can talk about that. But really, I see you as a community builder, and that's one of the biggest reasons I brought you on the show as the very first guest. You actually know and interact with a lot of the other guests that I have confirmed
Probably. Yeah.
for for the show. And you work with some of these people, and you live in Canada.
hmm
That's where the accent is, guys. You know, so he's in Canada, and you're dealing with people in Ohio and Illinois and in California and all over Canada. And Canada's huge, just like America. So you're going from East Coast to West Coast. Like,
Yeah.
you're traveling all over the place to support some of the clients of the brands that you work with, to train people, to work with your buddies, like you said. Like, how did you even get into that? Because like most people are like, I'm just gonna go do my job, clean my tools, go home, and that's it, right? Like, I'm gonna take my money and go.
We
You don't have to do all this community stuff that you do
it's a
or
lot
any
of
of the
work.
extra things that you're
Yeah.
doing.
So really what spiked it, I had gotten into Instagram and I kind of found my place there. Like,
Mhm.
and it was like you were part of the team there.
Right.
I got on with Nick and did his podcast. We got talking about Fresco, and Aaron and Nick were going to be in Toronto. Aaron owns Columbia Tools. We were all going to be in Toronto at the same time, and it was at the CSR Black Friday last year.
Yep. I
And
remember seeing the videos and
yeah,
such. And folks in America, if you don't know what CSR is, it's like this massive, like, we're
it's,
so jealous here.
it's
Uh,
Mecca.
yeah, it's like a huge, I guess drywall retail store, right?
Yeah,
Warehouse.
their supply yard too, but it's
Yeah.
what they've done with the tools, having them all there on display, see them all, people there know about them. It's a community building place for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
So we go there. I walk in and I figure I'm going to be a fly on the wall. I'll shake a couple of hands. I'll try and get 5 minutes from Nick, and everybody is stoked that you're there, and
Right.
you don't even think that anybody knows who you are. And I met Wolfgang. I met Brad Kennedy. All these people that I consider my friends now.
Right.
And I left there for my first podcast, and we talked about it, and
Mhm.
I kind of sat back like, can't be the end of that. That has to be, that feeling of community. When you're doing what you love, sometimes it has to be on your own, because there isn't enough people that do exactly what you love. When you start finding other people and you start building that little community, you've got a lot in common. And you've got people that excel, and they want to do as good as you want to do, and you have to surround yourself with people like that.
Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head, and I think a lot of people here on LinkedIn and probably folks on, Facebook or YouTube or wherever they're streaming from, uh, don't know any of the folks that you're talking about, because I found all of you all on Instagram,
Yeah,
and I literally had to bring you to LinkedIn. You're all on YouTube, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, and it's a very tight knit community. And I have to say, us Americans, tiny bit jealous of you Canadian folks and all of the different events and things that you have within that community. But we have our own events and
totally.
other things that, like the carpentry unions and the electrical unions and even non-union. We've got the IBS Builder Show and
Hmm.
other things, obviously, that are pretty large, but we don't have a CSR here.
They'll
Hint,
ship to you,
hint.
but you can't see
Yeah.
them.
No, I know. I'm like, hint, hint. Because we do a lot of drywall, just saying America. The rest of the world makes fun of North America for all the drywall that we use, So I'm just saying, CSR. I'm just saying you guys should really look into the American market if you haven't done so already. Um, so let's pivot to that a little bit.
Mhm.
How did you get into even dealing with the suppliers after that whole CSR thing, right?
Yeah,
After that event, I kind of saw a whole transformation,
yeah,
with things like Columbia Tools, Fresco Harmony, Tech Dry Tools, which, you're wearing Corey's shirt. And folks, Corey is our next guest. He will be here for episode number 2.
well done.
And yeah, Corey is the brains and also the production and everything behind Tech Dry Tools.
Yeah.
And so it's really exciting to have a tool manufacturer here online. And, if it wasn't for the Canadian community, again, drywall community, I wouldn't have even known about Tech Dry Tools, because it was the taping queen
Yep.
who first introduced me to that. And, hopefully we'll get her on here as well, trying not to make this a fully drywall live stream
Yeah.
show.
There's lots of
um,
good people out there. Yeah.
Lots of good people, but the community within the drywall community, which is the specialty trade that Glowjoy selected as our construction company, is incredible. And this entire show is about community.
Hmm.
The whole point of this is to introduce folks to the construction industry. So let's talk a little bit about suppliers and vendors, and why it is so important to have a good relationship with these people, and why it's so important to even be a part of the process, right? Like, you get to test new tools,
Mhm.
you get to test new product. And for the record, most of us do, guys. We just have to ask. But why don't you why don't you explain to the people, after this whole thing, how you got involved and how you are now literally like one of the faces of Columbia Tools and Fresco Harmony, effectively.
Yeah, it's. I feel like if you're doing a good job and you're putting it out there and
Yeah.
you're tagging the companies to things, you get recognized pretty quick, and then it kind of comes down to your attitude. If you're kind of the right fit, people are happy to work with you. um, we are finding excuses to go see Aaron,
Right.
or to have Aaron here now, because it's you meet a tool manufacturer like that, and they're real people. They're just like you. They're working just as hard. He's technically a machinist, if you think
Hmm.
about it, right? Because he's got to build all those tools. They're built right here in Canada. We flew out there in June
Hmm.
to check everything out. It's the real stuff happens behind the scenes when they're making the tools, and then
Right.
they'll find a couple of guys to use them, and then you'll do a back and forth of like, is it failing, is it this, how can we make it better? And then they'll send them out to a bunch of guys like I was doing last year, where you're just run the tools, show people it's
Right.
easy, show people it's not as intimidating as what everybody thinks that it is. And a lot of them aren't. They're expensive, but if you take a look at it, it's really not. It's that efficiency, I guess.
And why is it that people will spend, upwards of 8, 9,
Yeah.
almost $1,000+ on certain tools for carpentry,
Hmm.
but or even tile cutting, and then we get into drywall knives,
Yeah, and they're $8, and that's how they're doing the house. It takes them a month.
right?
Yeah,
So, I mean,
it's
yes, you're
crazy.
right. The tools are a little bit expensive, and they're considered semi-automatic tools,
Hmm.
which allow somebody like you to, effectively tape up and, do all the corners and, like everything in a couple of days versus, like you said, a month.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to hand tape, like without even a tube or anything, if I had to hand tape a house, it would take me a week probably. I
Mhm.
I can run that auto taper and tape out a 10,000 board foot house in one day,
Right.
in and out. And then you come back in, you run all the flats one day, run all the corners one day. So you can do a massive project in a week.
Right.
Now, if you get a couple of guys on site that know what they're doing, that just speeds up the process. The difference is the quality at the end of it is over and over and over again.
Mhm.
It kind of sets a standard for what you're looking for, and those boxes are going to put it on the wall the same way every time. The only thing that's going to change is you, right? And everybody gets better at it.
Mhm.
I think the thing that's cool with the suppliers is they really do appreciate it.
Right.
Like these events, like the Barry grand opening was a huge event. It was, everybody was there, Festool and all the tool companies. And they get like a food truck, there's giveaways, everybody gets a goodie bag, but everybody meets each other at that point.
Right.
I had this thought process a year ago where it's not a feast or famine thing anymore. There's too much work. Like it's everywhere. They're bringing people in from other countries to come and do the work. So why are we not just doing the work?
You flew into Illinois to do work here and you're in Canada. And I was like, what is going on here? Like, are there not enough Americans that like want to do this work? But obviously it's for a new product,
Hmm.
not very widely used in America. In fact, I spoke about it with my architects this week. I told you
Yeah.
at a finish meeting and just introduced it to them and explained to them effectively what it was. So, we keep talking about this. Let's talk about it. So,
I,
behind you, you have a Fresco Harmony wall.
yeah. So
Um,
this is like it's two colors.
Mhm.
I just kind of went crazy because I wanted something cool on the podcast wall, but it, nobody does textured walls anymore because it's so expensive. To get Venetian plaster done in your home
Mhm.
that's an undertaking, and then you have to find somebody that can do it, because
Yep.
if you pay for all the product and then you have somebody that kind of knows what they're doing, it's going to show.
Oh, yeah.
So some Venetian plasters are, like you're 10 times more than what a Fresco Harmony site would be.
Mhm.
But I think everybody looks at anything other than flat walls or like orange peel as we can't afford that.
Well,
Um,
wallpaper, I
oh yeah,
mean,
wallpaper's making its way back, and
yeah.
I kind of like it, but I'll never say that again because it's not what I want to do.
No, of course. I've tried look, we've done projects with wallpaper. We do a
Hmm.
lot of retail spaces, you know that. So I'm looking at Fresco Harmony as a like we
Yeah,
already have to mud the walls and the walls have to be like taped and mudded perfectly. Otherwise, you are going to see those seams through the
yeah.
wallpaper. So if we already have to go through this whole process, for me as a project manager, particularly for commercial sites where we want to like turn stuff over, we want things to be, not on a budget, but on a budget
Yeah.
because business
Yeah.
owners, retail owners, restaurant owners, like just everybody who's an owner of a business, particularly small business, is not going to have a lot of money starting off. So yeah, Fresco Harmony is an alternative to this that is relatively affordable and again, not so many people know how to do,
Hmm.
myself included, but I'm like, send me a tube of
Like
color
color pack.
and yeah, send me a color pack
Yeah,
and I'll play with it. I mean, I've got scraps of drywall everywhere.
totally.
You know?
Not to pitch it, but there's a budget for paint. You got a budget for the painter. You're going to pay him to mobilize. You're going to pay him to quote it. You're going to pay him to answer all the phone calls and all that other kind of stuff. The drywaller can just make that happen with
Yeah.
Fresco, and there's no sanding. So,
Yep.
like when you're doing these overnight sites, where
Hmm.
you've like a lot of people don't want to pay for a hard barrier; they want to have a soft barrier, and that's not. It's almost impossible to get all dust down in a soft barrier unless you've got like a negative pressure. But like you're into big money doing that kind of stuff. So when you can go from stud to finished paint, essentially with the Fresco with no dust,
Hmm.
that's huge.
Oh yeah,
And we
it
don't
is.
want to sand. Nobody wants to sand. So
Nobody wants to sand, and as good as Festool is, like you
I
said,
do love
and
it. I do love it.
I do love it too, but at the same time, I still, regardless of whether I have my mask and my goggles on, I'm
Yep.
still gonna have a tiny bit of dust, and inevitably we always have to hire a helper to come
Yep.
in and help me clean up, if we're doing an overnight job, help me clean up for before the next person comes in because a lot of times these are places that are open or just coming in to do some work overnight, like you said. So not to pitch the Fresco
Mhm.
obviously,
It's a
but
hell of a product, though.
as we and this is something that we do all the time and I'm very much like my dad is a complete product geek and nerd and I just grew up with him researching everything to
Yeah.
death, and I don't know any other way but to like research stuff to death. And I know that if there is a way to do something within somebody's budget and still make it look expensive,
Yeah.
which is what people want with the Venetian plaster or the wallpaper or an accent wall or whatever,
Hmm.
then let's find that product or let's find, that crew because clearly the folks in Illinois found you.
Oh yeah.
They
And
flew you all
in
down.
Vegas, that we met at Intex in Vegas,
Wow.
and then
See?
he got brought by Fresco, and I got brought by Columbia, and you make the contact, but you got to keep up with people like that too, right? And if you have a good relationship with somebody, there's no reason not to stay in touch. And here we are, not even a year later, doing a massive project together.
Yeah.
On that expensive side of not making things look expensive, but Trimtex has all kinds of different corner bead.
Oh, yeah.
People think there's just bullnose and there's just square. And we visited a house while we were down there, and this guy did waffle ceilings in every room,
Mhm.
every pillar, everything was. It's basically a chamfer that comes in and down, and then it's a bull nose. So
Okay.
so it almost looks like the side of a column. Like
Huh, yeah, yeah.
you can get them indented or out.
I've
Um,
used maybe not those specifically,
mhm,
but very similar so that we can like because it has the channel so that
yeah,
we can put LEDs inside.
totally.
Obviously, because when we're working in the fitness space and we're working in retail, another great way to make something pop,
Hmm.
particularly if you're trying to make like a accent wall where you have just a lobby, you're trying to like sell stuff, having
Hmm.
that LED just is a
Right.
great inexpensive way with trim techs, like you said, to make it pop.
It's
Um,
flat in the wall. It's seamless, and that kind of goes back to talking to suppliers and talking to the businesses and being a part of it on that end, because I don't even think everybody knows it's available.
So, are you the next question, I guess, is going to be, are you a designer though? Because
Kind
a
of.
lot of times people think, oh, these are the contractors or these are the suppliers. Like, what do they know? And me, I'm female, so people automatically assume a lot of times,
Okay.
yeah, that I am the designer, and they're like, should we wait for the contractor? And I'm like, contractor's here, we're waiting on the
Hmm.
designer and the architect,
Yeah, and
where
that's not infuriating at all.
well, it can be, but whatever.
You're
Uh,
very humble. Yeah.
it can be, but I'm usually like, no, I have a math brain. Like
Hmm.
I think in numbers. Like I, not to like put men down, but I'm like a dude, and I'll say it like that, and like most of the time they'll laugh. I'm like, I'm colorblind.
That's a good question, because a lot of the sites that I do on my own through the business,
Mhm.
you'll go in there and they'll go, "Man, we'd like this to be really cool," and you're like, "How cool?" Because
Right.
there's all kinds of cool stuff. And me as the finisher, like getting into specialty beads, yeah, you really do need to understand angles in a compound saw. But I mean, other than that, finishing it with a cool bead is the same thing.
Yeah.
You're gonna hit it twice, right? You got to install it. You got to finish
At
it.
at least twice,
Yeah.
depending on if you're
How
doing a
good you are.
remodel in the framer and, who put the drywall up, you might have to hit it
Exactly.
a couple more times. But, definitely at least twice.
Hmm.
So, I asked that question because there is a stigma, obviously, and there are many women in construction, and traditionally they have been pushed to certain roles, but there's
Hmm.
definitely many men like you who have also just been in the field forever, understand the entire construction process from framing all the way to end. You are a finisher through and through.
Hmm.
That's who you are. And in many ways, you also participate in the design of your projects and, working with the suppliers and the clients to figure out what colors you're going to use and how you're going to mix things with the fresco or the which beads to use,
Hmm.
etc. And while you all were there in Illinois, I saw on Instagram, and very cool that you posted some of the videos here for the audience on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. And I'm sure you guys will post it on YouTube as well. We'll make
Yeah.
sure that all of
Eventually.
your links are in the show notes and whatever, all that stuff that Jamie does. Uh,
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie. But what is next, for you?
So, actually, when I was down in Illinois, there are basically three major players down there,
'Cause
and they
you
all,
guys did how many projects in a week? That's where I was getting with that story. It was
you
a
know,
lot.
we
I've seen the videos. It was a lot of projects. It was 1 week, and you guys it was a well-oiled machine.
yeah,
You guys
Chad
had, like
is a master.
okay.
Yeah, so we came down there to do the fresco site at the big bar.
Mhm.
We also got into a high end home and did some Roman clay in a bathroom,
Yep,
and
I saw that.
we're able to see Chad do a Venetian fireplace.
Mhm.
Um, we got out to that really expensive house, and the bedroom was overlooking that river.
Yeah.
And we did that in same thing, Fresco Harmony, but we did it with sand. So
Mhm.
way back in the day, Ralph Lauren had like a paint that was a textured paint,
Okay.
and it was, I think he was attempting to to do kind of like a Venetian style finish, but that's what the guy
Okay.
wanted. And he
Okay.
has this specific brown. And Chad sent a chunk of the wall out to Nick,
Okay.
and Nick color matched it exactly, and then sent him back color packs of the fresco that were perfect. I
Nice.
think that's all we did, though. I think it was only the 3 projects. We just made it look like it was a lot.
But
We're very good at that on Instagram. No, I'm
well,
joking.
honestly, the one bar that you guys did would have
Yeah,
taken
month.
2 weeks,
Yeah.
alone if we were doing regular drywall, tape, mud, and wallpaper, or regular
Oh
drywall,
yeah.
tape, mud, and, finish and paint,
Mhm.
etc. Like it would have taken, so this is like a 1 to 2 step process. So I'm not pushing the product. I don't even have a promo code. So
Yeah,
if you guys
that's
want one of
interesting.
those, yeah, if you guys want one of those things, talk to Shawn. He might have a promo code. But honestly, I think that I would have never known about Fresco if it wasn't for Shawn and
Mhm.
obviously the community on Instagram. I know that Fresco is owned by a small business owner as well, and
Yep.
just another innovator and creator here in North America. And so this here is about highlighting construction
Mhm.
careers and opportunities in construction. And, who better to bring than somebody who is, yes, running his own drywall company, but you also have multiple sources of income
Yeah.
within the construction industry. And outside of myself, I really don't know a lot of people who are doing that. I really, I don't. And
Yeah.
so, from a community standpoint, and just for people to understand that you can come from literally nothing and be a Shawn, you know,
It, it, it,
it's really cool. It's just really cool. And I know that you do this stuff every day,
yeah.
and you just think you're this blue collar dad that drives his truck and goes to work and comes
Yeah.
home.
Says good
But
morning. Yeah.
yeah, to the rest of us, it's really, really cool. And you make real money, like good money. So, we've got, like, I would say, another 10-15 minutes
Okay.
before we're going to want to wrap up, because job sites are closing up at 4 o'clock. My phone's already blowing up. I don't know
Okay.
about yours.
I had to turn
And
mine off.
yeah, and we want to make sure that people leave the office and don't stay there late just because they're hanging out online listening to us.
Right.
So we made this at the end of the day to make sure we have fun, but also to hold us accountable to not
Yeah. Do
having
it
a
for
four
3 hours.
four
Yeah.
4 hour long podcast that's recorded.
Which, if you do want to do, she has a podcast with me that was 3 hours long. I think when you're kind of you hit on money a little bit.
Mhm.
I think if you find something that you want to put the time into,
Mhm.
doctors go to school forever.
Mhm.
These high end business people have education that they go forever. Dedicate
Lawyers.
10 years
Mhm.
to getting awesome at something, and like my forever goal was to hit six figures. I figured that was going to be like that. I'll never get there, but we're going to do it. And like the next goal is 250,000, because it's like I hit 6 figures so fast,
Oh, yeah.
where you're just like, holy shit. It's
Yeah. But how long did you work?
I
It's
swore,
okay.
everybody. I'm sorry.
Hey, we don't have to be professional. It's
Yeah.
construction, and
Cap-
this is adult content.
Captain America goes language.
Language. Yeah. So, one of my everything construction rules is that we try to keep, the F bombs to a minimum,
Mhm.
because otherwise I'll have a bunch of folks thinking that we're on the job site, and there'll be
Right.
like an F bomb and whatever else every once in a while in here. And I say that because, and folks, hide your children if they are listening. We want your children to listen.
Yeah.
We want them to be exposed to construction careers, and to hear somebody like Shawn say, hey, hitting 6 figures, like, that was quick. So you say that was quick, but it really wasn't quick. You worked for other people probably for like 10 years.
Oh, forever. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you got all that experience, and then you started a business, and then once you did start the business and you took that experience and you took everything, I guess, that you didn't like from other people and did it
Yep.
better, which is what most of us do, right?
You're supposed to. Yeah.
Most of us do, and then we make our own mistakes, but you hit that 6 figures pretty quick. And so I want folks to know that that is an option, and you do not have to sit behind a desk or go to dental school or law school or doctor school. And we're not dogging on those guys, because guess what? They're tradespeople too.
Totally.
A doctor, especially the surgeons, like, I mean, those people are like 1000% tradespeople as well. They're studying something different and they're working magic, but absolute tradespeople 1000%, and so many others. So putting in the time, whether it's working for a company, being a part of a union, trying 10 different businesses like myself, failing, other things, like, you put in the time.
Yeah.
And then when you're ready and you start that business, and for some people, God bless them, it's when they're 19.
Yeah. Cam's like 26 and he has a booming business. And he says that it was hearing me on Nick's podcast saying if I could go back to a younger me, I would just jump in.
Well,
and he did. And I'm like, buddy, you're not even 30.
Exactly. Like I said, God bless them. For some people, that's 19. For the guy from KFC, I think it was in his 60s or something.
Some people
like
are
that.
60. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have people jumping into construction in their 50s now because they want to get out of the field. So they want to work in safety and other roles where they can still use very similar OSHA certifications and actually have transferable skills and credits, believe it or not, to where they don't have to be so hands-on, but maybe they can work in a safety role in construction or, a foreman role or what have you. Right. So lots of opportunity in construction. I love the construction industry. I know you do too.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful that you agreed to be my first guest,
of course,
official guest. And I'm going to bring you back, obviously,
as many times as you want. I have nothing but time for you.
So thank you so much to talk about. Before we jump off, I see that we don't have very many questions, and I see the comments on my right-hand side, and Jamie's been fielding questions and comments and things of that nature. I know a lot of folks.
I didn't have it clicked on yet.
Yeah, okay. I know a lot of folks will be catching a replay. So obviously, they may not understand a lot of the live stuff that's going on here, but that's the point of it. And obviously, we have many other conversations online on your podcast, which we've not talked about. So we've talked about your business. We've talked about your family. We've talked about your travel schedule. We've talked about the fact that you're an ambassador for suppliers, product tester, like designing spaces, all that stuff. And then you have a podcast.
And then I run a podcast. Yeah.
And then you run a podcast.
And we're taking that seriously too. Like you went and got a Jamie. I'm in the midst of getting my own, and we're going to start giving it the attention it needs. It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun this year, but it's time to really give it some effort.
And a lot of these podcasts are very similar to other creators where they're very long format, and like us, I chose to do live so that there's no editing and I don't have to stress about it, right? All I have to make sure is that we have a strong internet connection and our StreamYard is working, and, we'll work out kinks as we do with all things. But I just had to get started, right? And you started your podcast. I was one of your guests. Folks, you don't have to listen to the whole thing.
Sure you do. It's so good.
Yeah, it's broken up into parts, which is great.
I do that on purpose.
Which is great. And Shawn has had some incredible guests, and it's on Spotify. I know it's on YouTube. And is it on Apple?
We're trying to get into Apple. Something funny happened with the uploading software that I use. So, but again, she's going to put the time into that. Get it going.
Yeah, so Spotify, YouTube, make sure that you give Shawn a follow, obviously, here on LinkedIn, and give him a follow. I don't even know if Facebook is linked to this. I don't have a Facebook, so, this is all ran through my team. But, make sure that you give Shawn a follow. We will also link his Instagram on
Okay.
here, which is where we have our community for, drywall finishers. And I put myself in that community, even though like I'm a newbie and truly don't belong, but these people have
No.
adopted me. They have
Yeah.
trained me. They have sent me tools. Um, you know, they have really helped me out as a community. And I talk a lot about that, on podcasts that I attend, because if it wasn't for the community, I probably would have quit the construction company a long
Yeah.
time ago, because labor is tough right now,
Yeah.
and we can't take on any jobs that we can't finish, and or jobs that we can't do ourselves. And I applaud that you are 1000%, inundated. You are, talk about self perform. That is you. And, our
Thank
social
you.
media team is already putting up, links and
Yep.
to your Brolly's dad construction. So, Brolly's dad construction, where did that come from?
So my Instagram started so much like you. I was in bodybuilding for a bit, and I was doing a Popeyes challenge, and I needed an Instagram. I didn't know what to put it as,
Mhm.
so I just looked at my son and was like, "Well, Brolly's dad, it is," and it just took off.
Mhm.
So when I started doing the construction stuff, everything's tied to it now. Because if you ask 90% of the people that I communicate with it on, they have no idea what my real name is. It's just Brawley's dad. So when it was like the podcast, the Brawley's dad podcast, the everything is, and I love it. It's a lot of people like it. It's very, I'm a dad first.
Absolutely. That's actually why I started with that.
Yeah.
And, I think that so many times we focus on the business side of things and people's successes and or accolades and achievements on a resume, which is effectively what our social media platforms are. There are resumes, we utilize Instagram to show off videos and photos of our work, utilize platforms like LinkedIn to put our actual resume, company names, things of that nature, credentials. And we utilize other applications to, send short story format and things of that nature. So, we have our resume, but we're family people first. There are people who, know absolutely nothing about me and my personal life, and then they get to know me and they get to know a little bit more. They get to know a little bit more about my family and, all of the things. And they're like, oh, but you never talk about that on your social media. And I'm like, well, that's a choice,
Yeah.
obviously, like that we made as a household. But also, my social media is very focused on the business,
Yeah. It's a
right?
business page. Yeah.
It's a business page,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's a effort, really. It or happen organically. I come from fitness. I'm an ex-fitness coach,
Hmm.
ex group fitness instructor, so I put on my group X voice when I'm on the job site and nobody's
Good.
listening, and it's now my construction voice,
Yeah.
but
The
it's the
thunder.
same voice, guys.
Yeah.
you know, and I'm there to motivate. I'm
Yeah.
there to make sure that people make it through the end of the day, through the end of the week, through the end of the month. A lot of people who come to construction, sadly, find it as a last resort or a second or third or fourth option. And with live streams like this, I'm hoping to change that And I'm hoping to introduce folks to more people like you whom, we didn't even talk about it today, but
I know. We said we weren't going to get through any questions. I
yeah,
don't think we
you
did.
dropped out of high school at 16.
Yeah, it was not working for me.
Yeah, and you ended up in construction and
Yeah.
you make six figures and your kids go to private school. I mean,
My son does.
yeah,
Yeah.
your son goes to private school and wants to be an astronaut and
Astrophysicist.
okay, like
I know he always cuts me off when I say astronaut, so I gotta have his back.
astrophysicist
Right.
Brolly, I am so sorry. Anyway, if there's any of my dreamers in here that are looking for their next protege and like wacky engineering brains, talk to Brawley's dad about Brolly, because it sounds like he's a little bit of a genius kid. So
He very much is. Yeah.
yeah, he very
We
much
lucked
is.
out good.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything that you want to tell the people before we wrap up for today?
Well, I definitely can't do my outro. No. You know what? Nick and I actually had a conversation about the Fresco thing, and we were having this moment in Illinois where he was like, wouldn't this make sense if people were interested in it? You fly out and then you teach who they use how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's money in that for us. And it sells product for Nick, and it's got a lot of market, power behind it. So it's that's an option, and we're going to start doing that more and more this year. Same with big projects, getting more content creators and kind of masters of their trade all together, and do bigger sites. I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm waiting for my little multi-starter pack so I can play with my stuff, but and maybe you guys can even ship me some small samples of the work that you guys have done, because realistically, like as we look to upgrade hallways in New York, as we look to, just a greener, more sustainable New York and or Northeast, we have to remove walls in order to insulate.
Yep.
So there's a lot of drywall that's going to be going up. And if you want to make it interesting and you don't want to date yourself, with some quirky wallpaper that's trending.
Paisley wallpaper.
Yeah, whatever. Maybe consider something like this versus a Venetian plaster.
Yeah.
And again, not pushing the product because I've never even tried it.
Have you got a hold of Nick?
No, I have not.
Yeah. If you get a hold of him, he'll send you the sample packs. He loves doing it. Shout out to Nick Harmon.
And Nick, make sure that you DM me immediately and we will talk about it. And I pay for my samples. I'll pay for samples for tile, I'll pay for samples for counters, etc. If I need to pay for my samples as a contractor, like no shade, I will pay for you to send me my samples.
We'll get you some.
And I don't think that contractors should have any shade on paying for samples, because the suppliers are small business owners themselves. And I come from a family who is on the supply side.
Totally.
So I know this, giving people free samples can get really pricey, really quick, especially with just shipping, alone, So to the contractor community, Shawn is new to LinkedIn. He is a veteran on YouTube. I am new on YouTube. So we're going to ask two things. We're going to ask you to follow Shawn on LinkedIn.
Awesome.
We're going to ask you to follow us on YouTube because we have no subscribers. And the more you subscribe, like, and share the content, the algorithm will obviously continuously push it out, right? And we want more people to be exposed to the construction industry and just to people like Shawn and other guests that we're bringing on board. So
I'm so excited for the rest of them.
Every guest gets to introduce the next guest. So
Corey Fisher, everybody.
Woohoo! So why don't you tell us a little bit about Corey as we wrap this up, and then we will close it out for the day. Corey Fisher, episode 2 in 2 weeks. That's going to be on the 17th of November, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Corey is on Central time. So that would be 2 p.m. Central. But yeah, why don't you introduce us to Corey Fisher?
I'm so happy you're letting me do that.
Yeah.
Corey's not only an excellent blue collar guy, he is an excellent finisher. Like what I would consider to be a top tier guy. Sprays everything. Everything is unbelievable. His work is down to a T. Um, and then he has this whole other hat that he wears where he's figuring out innovating new products. He's getting them built on his own, and then he's moving forward with, he's got a new line of products coming out. And if, you know, I don't know when, he keeps telling me next month, and I think he's lying, but it's, you know, as an impressive human being, he's way up there on my list. He's also a father, right? Like there are so many different levels to Corey. I mean, I'm really excited to hear him on this podcast. I had him on mine and we just hung out. We didn't even get to any of the good stuff. That typically happens a lot. Yeah, he's an American made stuff. It's yeah, I can't say enough good stuff about Corey. It's he really is an impressive person. He's very present in the community. Yeah, when you talk to anybody that's really gotten big in the last couple of years, they all were backed by him right from the get-go. He's a really awesome human being.
And, you know, this is coming from another really awesome human being who has literally given us an hour and a half, because we had the pre-show
Yep.
and we were testing audio and all that stuff on the back end. And so, Corey, we can't wait to have you on here. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us at Glowjoy's Everything Construction Corner, which is sponsored by Glowjoy Construction and also brought to you by the Everything Construction community now on LinkedIn. We started this community back in 2020. It has grown to over 4,500, almost 5,000 members on Clubhouse. Clubhouse, you know, I don't know what people are doing, but we're bringing folks over to LinkedIn. So if you're not a part of the Everything Construction community group on LinkedIn, that is 100% free. And it is a place where we hope to bring everybody that is in the construction industry, in and around the construction industry, to have conversations, not just like this. We'll also have the LinkedIn live audio where you all can, you know, join in on the conversation on our off weeks, and, you know, of course, maybe have some group conversations, and
that'd be great.
Bring other people back. And of course, you know, Shawn will be back. We kind of used Shawn to test out, you know, all the first episode, and we knew that Shawn was going to be easy breezy.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Really,
this was fun.
When it comes to community, there is, in my opinion, at least, nobody really better than Shawn to help bring communities from other platforms to LinkedIn. And we have a very strong community already on LinkedIn that is of construction. So I can't wait for you to meet all my buddies here on LinkedIn.
I'm super excited.
You know, shout out to Lance, shout out to Leslie, shout out to Bruce, shout out to Jesse, shout out to all the people who I do see the comments, but like I don't know how to post them and or reply to you on this
Neither
app.
do I. Yeah.
So thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this. Jamie, thank you for organizing.
Thanks,
and
Jamie.
We will catch you all the next time. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Peace.
everybody.